Basically, Pastor Thomas Burke came on here and said that churches aren't obligated to help people that are in need. And the reason he's saying this because of the girl that's exposing churches for not helping people in their community. So this woman is calling churches, asking them for baby formula, telling these churches that her baby hasn't eaten in a day and a half. Now, there was a social experiment. But in this social experiment, she exposed that over 30 churches denied her when she called. It went viral. Then Pastor Thomas Burke used his platform to tell people what churches will do and what churches won't do. Simple fact is this: nobody is obligated to do anything that they do not want to do. But a church, you would think that a church will want to help somebody when there's a problem, due to the fact that people donate so much money to churches. And Pastor Thomas Burke gave all types of reasons. He said churches get scammed. He said some people just want to tax the churches. He said we spend $1 trillion a year on our military. Then he goes to say that the United States spends less than 1% on helping people that are in need. And although that may be true, what does that have to do with that lady calling a church and asking a church for baby formula to feed a baby? Truth of the matter is, people can't call the governor or the president. People can call the closest thing to them, and that probably would be a church. Now, not everybody is calling with the truth, but if somebody is calling with the truth, you're telling me that you won't help them? I've seen somebody mention the fact that a pastor wouldn't even open up the doors to his mega church to let somebody in when it was a hurricane. You got certain pastors driving around in Bentleys, driving around in Benzes, living in mansions. You got certain pastors condemning people for not giving enough money for their tithes or putting enough money in collection plates. What is this?
There's a woman on TikTok who's doing a social experiment where she is calling churches to ask about baby formula to see if any of them will actually help them out. And she called a mosque, and they actually would help them out, while none of the churches. And this doesn't surprise me as a pastor, and I talk a lot about Muslim zakat. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam, where Muslim communities and Muslims are obligated to provide charity to the community. Churches, they are not obligated. We hope that they're going to be able to be philanthropic and donate into their community. And my church has a food bank that I'm very proud of, but not every church has a discretionary fund. As a pastor, I have a discretionary fund, but also there's a scam going on right now in churches. My assistant this week got a text saying, "Hi, this is Pastor Burke, Pastor Tom. Can you send me the directory of the church?" Because what scammers do is they go through the directory of churches, they go through online directories, and they email and they scam all members of churches, and they say, "Can you send me a Visa gift card? Can you send me this gift card?" That is something that happens. Churches get scammed all of the time. And
greetings everybody, and welcome back. You know, it's heartbreaking when you realize how far we've drifted from what church was meant to be. The church was supposed to be a refuge, a place where the hungry found food, the tired found rest, and the broken found compassion. But lately, it feels like the church has turned into a business with fancy lights, big screens, and security guards at the door, all while real people outside are begging for a chance to survive another day. When a pastor says, "It's not the church's job to help people in need," you have to stop and ask, then whose job it is? Let's get to see the whole reaction, then we come back with commentary.
So if you think the response to churches saying no to helping baby formula is to tax the churches, we spend $1 trillion a year on our military, on bombing other countries. We are right now bombing fishermen in the ocean. We spend less than 1% of our GDP, less than 1% of our budget on helping poor people, on food aid, on SNAP, on food assistance. So I don't understand why people want to tax the church when that tax money is just going to the military. Churches, the money that is donated to churches as a nonprofit or charity has already been taxed. And I understand that people want people on food assistance, people who need baby formula should get that help. But taxing the churches is not going to do that. All you're going to do is take money from churches and give it to the military and give it to the government, which is not helping poor people at all. Well, if you want to reform the tax code, that's fine. I'm all about it. But taxing churches would close small churches that actually do provide local philanthropic efforts to the community, and it would do nothing to the mega churches that you really want to actually get rid of. Churches like Joel Osteen, who doesn't do anything. These churches like Mark Driscoll. If you call those types of churches, of course they're not going to help. But if you call a small town church that well, they're going to try and do whatever they can to help you. So the answer is not taxing the churches, because then you're just taking money from churches and giving it to the military.
Is that what Jesus taught? Is it Christian to say our benevolence is just for our members? I don't think that is very Christian. The churches said they have to protect from getting scammed. Some pastors took to the pulpit on Sunday to defend their embarrassed churches.
I'd like to have my own social experiment, if I could, for just a second. If somebody walked in the back door right now asking for a can of baby formula, how many of you would help? Just show by a raise of hands.
I don't see everyone's hands.
There's your social experiment.
Where's the hands?
Never forget that when she called a mosque, they said yes. In Islam, charity is a fundamental obligation. I thought it was in Christianity too, but let's move on. Perhaps you should think about Islam a little bit differently when you remember that a supposedly Christian mother and her starving baby asked the mosque for food, for baby formula, and they said yes when the Christian churches said no.
Okay, so let me meet you where you need to be met. It is not the church's responsibility to feed people who cannot feed themselves. So what is the purpose of churches? Why do churches get tax exempt? Let's talk logistically before we talk about religion. What is the point if they do not house people, if they do not have shelter for people, if they do not feed people? What is the point of the church? If you're going to say worship, Jesus has to be within it, as in the souls of people, in our actions, in the way we love one another, for Jesus to be in that home or in that building. And if you don't live like Christ by feeding the poor, by providing shelter, by feeding babies, by showing love, by being kind, Jesus doesn't live in that building that you call a church, right? I don't need a building to worship. I have a home I can worship Jesus in. So what's the point of a church? Again, if they do not feed the poor, house the poor, show empathy to the poor, love the poor, move like Jesus, live like Jesus. Mind you, I'm Muslim, so I'm meeting you where you need to be met. What's the point of a church if they're not going to move and live like Jesus and through Jesus? Quickly now, because you putting that emoji as if I said something outlandish, saying that churches have the responsibility to feed, shelter, house, love, empathize the poor. I don't think I know what the definition of a church, a mosque, a temple is then. There would be no point and use of a temple, mosque, and church if you don't move and live like Christ, as Christians and as Muslims move and live through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Muslims. So maybe we need to have an education on what the point of a church is then from you. I want to add on, it is my responsibility, human to human, regardless of religion, race and gender and sexual preference. It is my responsibility to make sure my neighbors are eating. Even if I'm not able to eat, I seek to make sure that my neighbors, regardless of religion, sexual preference, gender, race, it is my responsibility. I take that on with no burden to make sure my neighbors eat. So if I, a simple being, is taking on this responsibility, why would not a church that God is supposed to live in, why would they not take that responsibility?
I'm sure by now many of you have seen the videos of the lady calling off the churches. And I'm sure also by now many of you have seen the video of, I believe he's a pastor, saying that churches are not obligated to help people. And I just want to push back on that quite a bit, because churches are obligated to help people. The reason they are tax exempt is because they're supposed to be using a large portion of the money that they bring in to help the community. They're supposed to be a community resource. And yet, for many places, they're not a community resource. They're literally a community drain. Sorry, my cat was going to push that off the shelf. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you know, maybe they don't have the money. Maybe they're a small rural church. They got a building, baby. They've got a building. You can do a lot with a building. You can hold community meetings at the building. You can be a temporary homeless shelter. You could be a temporary warming shelter. A lot of these places have literally industrial kitchens. Every single Catholic church that my family was a part of growing up had an undercroft that was big, baby, real big. And these were not like rich people part of town Catholic churches. These were just regular churches. They had an undercroft, and most of them had a literal industrial kitchen. The church that my husband's family goes to right now, massive fucking building. Total waste of space. They hardly use it. They use it to put on a play, and then like sometimes they use it for weddings and stuff, but people have to pay to have a wedding there. They also have an industrial kitchen. It literally just sits there. I'm cooking people meals out of my home. I could use that space to help people. If they don't want to put up the man hours, if they don't want to put up the money, let me use the space at least. I've called around here. None of them will let me. Catholic church here won't let me. I wouldn't be there alone. Somebody could be there supervising me or whatever. I'd be bringing all my own stuff. They don't have to pay anything. They don't have to do anything. They just have to let me use the space, and they won't. Why would that be? Your money paid for these facilities to be built. Your money paid for them to have a big fucking building and a big industrial kitchen with like huge ovens, like very fancy stuff that like you could do a lot of good with that. You paid for that, and then you don't see any benefit from it. Your community doesn't see any benefit from it. It gets used once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks. It's sitting right there. I don't want to hear, I better not fucking see another religious leader get on this app and say a church is not required to help people. That's your job. That is literally your job. That is what you are paid to do. Do it.
Pastor Thomas Burke, come to this message is only for you. I saw what you said on your post. Now you're private. He says churches get scammed all the time. But don't you walk by faith and not by sight? So, let's just say you did get scammed by somebody. But what about the person who's calling the church for help, who's not trying to scam the church? I can't believe this man got on Beyonce's internet and said that the church is not obligated to take care of anybody. So, my question, why do you guys need that tax exemption if you do not want to help people? Because again, like I said before, being tax exempt is a public benefit to provide charitable acts and social service. I can't believe it, but now you're private now. Why are you private? Why are you private now?
Saying that the church doesn't have an obligation to help the needy sounds a whole hell of a lot like the police saying that they don't have an obligation to protect and serve.
Churches get scammed all of the time. They email and they scam all members of churches and they say, can you send me a Visa gift card? Can you send me this gift card?
Hey, Tommy, quick question. Did she ask you for a Visa gift card? Did she ask anybody for money or gift cards of any kind? Did she ask for a directory of the church members? No. What she asked for, because I watched the videos, was one small can of baby formula. She said, I don't need any money. Could you just grab me a can of baby formula, a small one, and I will come get it? And y'all are saying no. And it's being caught on camera and you can't deny it. So now you got to come up with a reason why you don't want to help people. Also, quick question. What's with all the chest hair? Like, you had to leave your robe all open showing a tattoo and chest hair, like Grinder.
Don't mind me. I'm just a pastor sitting here in my robe with my chest hair out. And I just wanted to comment on this social experiment about the woman calling the churches and mosques to see if they'll donate a can of baby formula. The church is not obligated to help you, okay? Do you have some sort of church blockbuster membership card? Do you attend our weekly book clubs? No. So we are not obligated to help you, okay? Now, at my fundamental church of Jesus' tailbone, we do not help people unless they help us. That's just how it works.
With this current social experiment that's trending with the woman calling and asking for baby formula, I'm seeing a bunch of experts on how churches are meant to operate. Experts telling you that if a church doesn't do A, B, and C, it's a bad church. Leave the church. Don't donate to the church anymore. And as I've stated in my other videos, I'm not defending every single church because I don't know how they're operating. But I will stand on what I've said once and I'll say it again. This is setting a very dangerous precedent because this is not the test of a good church. Do churches help provide for their community? Absolutely. But it is not the church's responsibility to do so. The church's responsibility is to shepherd the congregation, building them up to be mature in the faith so they can go into the community and make an impact. Churches will then partner with these different organizations that are created by Christians to help impact the community. This is why there are so many Christian charitable organizations that are focused on these very things. In every major city, you will find several Christian organizations focused on child poverty and single mothers. You will find Christian organizations focused on the homeless and human trafficking. You will find several Christian organizations that are focused on fostering and adopting. And the list goes on and on and on. In fact, since the SNAP shutdown, you can look at multiple articles across the country of Christian organizations stepping up and providing food. The leading group of people fostering children are Christians. And the majority of these churches that are out here are partnered with different Christian organizations. They partner with them because they have the resources and capability to do these things because that's their focus. And so yes, the church brings in money that pays the bills and keeps things going. And then they send money out to these organizations who make their focus helping people. This frees up the church to focus on what its intention is, to grow people in the faith, pointing to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so yes, many churches have small outreaches that they do personally. But most churches partner with bigger organizations that can actually handle the brunt of issues that come forward from the community. Now, I've seen some people upset because some churches make the priority their members. But that's actually biblical. Yes, we want to help everyone outside of the church, but the priority is the members of the church.
Pastor Burt comes out with excuses. Churches get scammed, people tax them, blah, blah. He even ranted about the U.S. spending trillions on the military, but less than 1% on the needy. Like, what's that got to do with a mom begging for baby food? Come on, churches get tons of donations. You think they'd want to help? But some pastors, driving Bentleys, living in mansions, yelling at folks for not tithing enough. Remember that megachurch pastor who locked doors during a hurricane? Wild. Yeah, nobody's forced to do anything but churches. They're supposed to be the go-to when people have nowhere else to turn. If someone's actually telling the truth about their baby starving, you're just gonna say no? That's messed up.
I'm confused why so many of y'all are mad at that lady who's been calling churches to see if they would give baby formula and food to a mom in need, because y'all should be mad at the churches who are saying no to this. Like, this lady is doing an angel's work right now, because there are people in these situations where they don't have food, they don't know where their next meal is coming from, and they actively go to church, and you would think they should be able to lean on the churches that they give their money and time to. I've seen so many videos of these churches like saying no to helping these people and not even giving any type of options of saying, hey, you can go here. I've seen videos of pastors saying, oh, the church isn't obligated to help you out. And like, I saw one video of this church blaming Obama as the reason why they can't help people. Like, he deadass said Obama as in the Obama that was in office 10 years ago. Like, what does he have to do with you helping your people now? And it does suck because I know there are plenty of churches that are helping people, but the ones that aren't helping overshadow it completely. And what really gets me is that in basically every single religion, one of the founding principles is helping those in need, especially helping your brothers and sisters that are in need. And the fact that so many of these places of worship are basically saying, hey, no, we can't help you, and not even giving any type of resources or like saying, hey, maybe try this. They're just saying no and shutting it down, and y'all are defending it. It makes no sense.
Let's be honest. This whole situation says a lot about where the modern church has gone wrong. We live in a world where people are struggling every single day, parents skipping meals so their kids can eat, single mothers crying in parking lots because they can't afford formula, and families praying for a miracle just to make it through the week. And when they reach out to the one place that's supposed to represent hope, the church, they are told we can't help you. How do you even justify that? The Bible talks over and over again about helping the poor, the hungry, the widowed, and the orphaned. Jesus himself didn't build churches made of stone and glass, but he built community through compassion. He fed 5,000 people with bread and fish, not excuses and paperwork. So when churches turn people away and says it's not their job, it's not just disappointing, it's a betrayal of everything faith stands for. Now let's talk about the tax exempt status. Churches don't pay taxes because in theory, they're supposed to give back to serve the people, to uplift the poor, and programs that change lives. But when you start acting like a business, collecting tithes, building $1 million sanctuaries, and turning away people in crisis, are you really serving Christ? Let's not forget, those donations come from hardworking people, people who trust that their money is being used for good. But when a mother is begging for baby formula, is told we can't help you, something is deeply broken. And this isn't just about one pastor. This is a mirror to all of us. Have we made faith about comfort instead of compassion? We've got pastors flying private jets, churches buying land worth millions, and members struggling to pay rent. How can we preach generosity on Sunday and ignore suffering on Monday? If the church isn't helping the needy, feeding the hungry, and showing compassion, then what's its purpose? What's the point of all those sermons and the prayers if it does not translate into love in action? Because love isn't just words, it's what you do when no one is watching. It's how you respond when someone says, my baby hasn't eaten for a day and a half. That's when your faith is tested, not when the choir is singing, not when the cameras are on, but when a stranger knocks your door in tears. And here is the truth. If churches can't live up to that, people will stop believing, not just in the institution, but in the very message it preaches. The younger generation is watching, and they are asking hard questions. When they see hypocrisy, they turn away, not from God, but from church. So maybe this is a wake-up call, a moment to strip away the performance and go back to purpose. So every pastor, every leader, every church member watching, let this be a reminder that faith without compassion is just noise. If the world can't see love through us, then we've lost our purpose. God is not impressed by how many people fill the church. God is impressed by how many hearts we choose to fill with kindness. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.